Welcome, Ananya. It's been a few years since we actually connected, or maybe a year and a half. But it is so joyful to watch your journey through high school and then ACE college as well, and
Mm,
work at a top consulting firm now. Why don't you
absolutely.
also introduce yourself and let our audience know what you've been up to besides work as well?
Absolutely. Thanks, Arjun. Of course, it's been a journey. I graduated from school in 2020 when I was interacting with Ed Brand quite a bit. I went on to SRCC to do economics honors, and I graduated in 2023 as topper both for my college as well as for Delhi University in Eco. Went on for Boston Consulting Group, and that's where I've been working as a traditional consultant for the last 2.5 years. And at BCG also, I've been fortunate enough to actually really be able to pursue my interests. I've worked across social impact, also practice areas where we work with the government and in the developmental sector in India. And in the last 1.5 year transition to actually some of the frontier work we're doing for AI, for digital transformation, and so on. But that's me at work. Outside of work, I think since childhood, I've been a very passionate foodie and a traveler. Over time, that sort of evolved to become more of a solo traveler and to write about food extensively. So that's something I hold close to my heart, and I haven't touch would let go of that even with a hectic professional life. But happy to be here. I'm. Please tell me how I can help.
Thanks. I think what's striking in your journey is like you've always done something hatke, like in Hindi we say, something different along with what you also consider your profession or your goal. Academically, you were always very gifted, and I remember there's so many interesting extracurricular activities that you were keenly pursuing, and that trend continued. So they're keeping that
Mm,
wonder, that excitement in a
yeah.
generation that's lost in devices at work and at
Mm.
home. It's good to see that you have such amazing hobbies. So, but let's talk about work first, and the fun part we can also attack.
Absolutely.
What do you think high school or college students even don't know about consulting as a profession, which you only discovered as you started applying, going through the rounds of interviews, and even things that you discovered beyond the interview stage, what life is as a consultant?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question, Arjun. Also, because I think even after getting in, I think you bust a lot of myths when you actually become a part of the system. Uh, Consulting, of course, is at its core about problem solving, critical thinking, and so on. But one thing that stands out for me is the value of relationships and people skills that people don't talk about enough when pitching consulting or understanding the nuances there. But today, whether that is work within the firms or whether that is work we do with our clients, everything boils down to relationships. How you're able to, put yourself out there, how you communicate. And I felt like students and college students should put a lot more emphasis on it. And that's a softer aspect as our work is also shifting with AI. That's something that will not change and is becoming even stronger.
Yeah, so that's the change we want to also know about, right? This, the human skills that are required. You talked about relational quotient in some sense. That's critical, and not
Hmm.
many people delve on that when they look at careers in consulting.
Yeah.
So, with AI, how did the profession change? And you've been in the thick of it since the time you joined, perhaps AI
Yeah.
introduced. So, what was the mood at the office when you joined? And what kind of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats that arose because of your own preparation to use AI tools, and what you've seen others in the profession of consulting face as challenges and threats?
Absolutely. No, it's actually been quite fun because around the time when I was starting off, which is Jan of 24, it was just initial phases of ChatGPT. And so we saw the progression of ChatGPT evolving to deep research capabilities to now sort of the boom of Claude that is there, right? And consulting, if I'm being very honest, is definitely evolving at a massive speed because of it, right? The access to information is crazy. The access to intelligence and reasoning is obviously with everyone now. The way to answer your questions in parts, how is consulting itself adopting to it? Is we are actively transitioning in terms of, let's say, projects that we do, as well as how our ways of workings are. In terms of projects, it is actively transitioning into more AI first topics, more product oriented strategy roles, more digital transformation pieces where we bring the best of, the fact that we are very good with people and can really drive change, but also that we understand the tech. So that's a fundamental shift in even the kind of projects that we are doing. In terms of the ways of working and how that's changing, I was joking about it, but my day to day now really looks like talking to different LLMs for different things that they solve, right? And the proportion of time I spent on actually creating presentations in a day has reduced drastically, even from my first year at BCG. And so, what is being pushed, I can't speak for the other consulting firms, but what is really being pushed is to upskill each and every one of us as power users. So we have dedicated teams which are building skills or MCPs specifically for how we work or to get our knowledge more accessible to people as BCG experience and IP become sort of our moat in the future, right? So I think overall there is a very big transformation that is going to happen in the knowledge space. And being a AI power user, how to, put your knowledge onto these LLMs, help them understand you and really work with them becomes critical for every single consultant.
Of course, most of your organizational work is on enterprise accounts, right? Whereas
Yes.
students would be on personal accounts, not even pro level accounts, or if they have access to resources, they would get pro level accounts.
Yeah.
So when you say AI power user, is there a training a high school kid or a college student can also undergo and not be at par, but at least have ability to gauge what enterprise users could do with these LLMs?
Absolutely. I honestly think the opposite, that, personal users actually have a lot more flexibility in the kind of tools that they can experiment, whereas enterprise users are restricted in the kind of security and compliance features that we can use. So students today, I don't there are a ton of resources on YouTube itself. I don't think courses are required. And the best advice, even as I did it myself, and I've transitioned into a role called a Apply AI Ambassador role within BCG. And the way to do that was to build projects yourself. And some of those projects, even I can't do on enterprise roles, invest in like a $20 cloth, and that can do wonders. So just experiment, watch YouTube, dabble with, random fun projects that you can make, as simple as a newsletter hitting your inbox. And that's like a 3 to 4 hour job on a weekend. So experiment as much. Think of interview. That it's what I did. I interviewed all the people around me and said, what's like the biggest headache that you have? And let me see how I could sort of build something for it. It could be prototype, it could be for fun. It doesn't have to be production grade. But that is the best way to figure it out. Skills are available online. Test some things out. Talk to Claude, actually. I don't even type to Claude anymore. I talk to it every day. Put as much context as you can. GPT is very good with all of these things as well. I mean, that's my advice. Just use it as much as you can and think of how you could plug it into everything that you do.
Fantastic. So the usage per hour screen time would have skyrocketed initially. For most of
Yeah, absolutely.
it was looking at those weekly averages of screen time just changed so much.
Yeah.
But have you now reached a rhythm with how many hours you're on these LLMs? Because they can be exhausting in some sense, right? Like they're making your life easier in one level, but you're also doing a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is definitely true. The exhaustion is real. I think the way I have approached it, and this is probably like a more working answer, is to have very dedicated sort of blocks for where I am just, putting things out there and getting like a version one from LLMs versus where I have to just sit and think. Like, okay,
Hmm.
I've gotten the version one, but that version one actually can never be presented ever. I think we are a long way there. So after that version one, I have dedicated hours where I'm like, this is what I've gotten. Now let me think and actually make it human, make it something that's presentable, do all the sort of nitty gritties of it. So that's how I've sort of, divided like working hours. Anytime where you think you're less productive during whichever part of your day, use that to just do talking, do that initial work, get to a 50-70% level that LLMs can do, but the rest of the journey has to be done by you, so you can do your deep work with those hours. That's how at least I have found a rhythm.
Mhm. So when you look at this 2.5 year journey and so many changes around happening in the industry all around and even in your client space,
Yeah.
what skills matter to you the most now? Thinking was one thing you mentioned, but beyond that, what else would you say are most important skills? Relations, there was another one that you said. I'm answering your question. I'm answering the question I'm asking. But yeah, anything other than these two?
I think another skill that I've learned is just sort of, I don't know if it could also be called a skill or not, but realizing that driving transformation is hard and takes time. So, as individuals, if you build the ability to actually just understand how things work today really well, it goes a long way. I think people who come outside in, especially like consultants or new kids with fresh energy, everyone thinks about what the future should look like, but it needs to anchor very well on, okay, how are things today and why are they the way they are. So just have like that curiosity or inquisitiveness or almost like a investigative ability to like get to the bottom of things, of why they are the way they are, what is going wrong, why do systems work this way. And this is generalizable across practice areas, across industries and clients I've worked with. One thing that you should spend a lot of time is really understand the place, the systems today. Then you can be innovative on top of that. I think that is often overlooked. Everyone is super excited about how to transform things and change things, and not enough attention is always put there.
So that's, I think, really true. The word transformation, digital transformation, process transformation, there's so many sort of jargonic sort of usage of the phrase. Now, to break it down, think of a case without naming it, of course. Like, what are the different types of transformation a consultant can actually be working on for clients?
Bunch of them. It could be as simple as what you would call a digital transformation, which would be you have, let's say, systems or data collection in Excels and PowerPoints and disorganized folders, and you're transitioning into, let's say, uniform digital platform. Or even implementation like putting in S&P, SAP, and Salesforce for you. Those are transformation pieces, and even that's a journey that doesn't hold true for a lot of Indian organizations. So, so that's like a more baseline level transition. The second form of transformation is a lot of, let's say, firms that are now were in knowledge services or back end operations or GTs whose jobs have fundamentally changed again. How do we transform your DNA into more product oriented companies? How can you transform your services where your service was actually the people that you have and their knowledge? How can you transition them into products? So what are products I can think for you? How would those products come alive? How do I institutionalize the knowledge that your people have into products that you could now sell, which is a fundamental transformation for that organization. You're shifting from a services firm to a product firm. Their approach is different, business model is different, everything. So those are like different ways. One would be like a more traditional sort of transformation, getting the basics of digital right. The second would be getting to the frontier, a complete sort of DNA shift, launching a new business vertical for them, and so on. That's like another form that we see a lot.
All right. So to conclude the first part of our session today, last question on work, and then we'll switch to your passion projects.
Sure.
What questions should high school students or even college students be asking themselves before, pursuing or even actively researching about careers in consulting?
That's a very good question. It's also super tough because I genuinely believe that consulting is a great place for freshers to start off, regardless of what your future interests are. But I think some questions you should definitely ask is, are you, and these are probably basic, but are you ready to be in a really cutthroat environment? Are you ready to, really spend those long hours for work that may not get used tomorrow? But you have to put in those hours. Uh, are you ready to, let's say, often as young members, as part of a team, you don't see the impact directly, right? Though that impact is several degrees separated from where you are. But can you still bring in and be motivated every day and wake up and sort of contribute whatever your piece of the puzzle is? Some of those things are really hard. It does get really hard in terms of the hours, in terms of the feedback that you get. Uh, are you self-confident enough to, persevere through them? And I am saying this after 2.5 years. I want to disclaimer this, that I struggled with this myself for the first 6 months. It is a place where a lot of uh, overachievers come in. You are not the only overachiever here. It does take the best of the crowd. So have that self confidence. Can you do that? Can you persevere? Uh, some of those things I would really like ask people to introspect before they get in. One question definitely is, why are you getting in? But I don't think even seniors in the firm have that question always. So yeah, maybe some of those questions.
Wonderful. So let's switch gears now. A lot of interesting knowledge nuggets, but now let's have some food nuggets. I know you have this passion project, which we all want to hear about. Who wouldn't want to travel around the globe and also in the country to sample restaurants which are rated as the top restaurants in the country or the world?
Yeah.
So how did this interest come about? And tell me more about your recent sort of fascination for doing this.
Absolutely. I think the interest in food and travel is all credits are to my parents and my upbringing. It's something I've been passionate about since childhood. It's something I wrote essays about when I was applying to undergrad. So, food and travel has always been sort of my way of connecting with people, sort of being passionate about understanding history, culture, our country better. So it's really an anchor for me outside of work, and I try to be a voice that sort of talks about it not just as subsistence, but also something you really enjoy as things you connect over with friends. So it's been a common thread throughout. Of course, over the last few years, since I was traveling a lot for work as well, it was about how can I really anchor myself even when I have a really rough day. And so the passion shifted a lot to really trying out new restaurants. And that used to be something I looked forward to after a rough day at work or something like that. That has stayed. So last 2 years, I was, running this whole passion project of just for my own sake, trying out all the top 50 restaurants in the country. It's a list by Condé Nast Traveler, a popular magazine, and they launch it with District. So yeah, I did Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. I went solo to Chennai to try it out. I went solo to Mysore to try out a place there. Organized a family trip to Goa and forced everyone to do that. So yeah, I think it sort of combined the fact that I really like having life outside of work, and that keeps me grounded. And it also helps me get more energy for work because it's an activity that energizes me. So it's you didn't ask for this, but it's also an advice I would give all high school students and college students to really have one thing that is outside of your professional sphere of influence, that anchors you back to who you are and acts as that break, that you do just for the sake of doing it and for no other sort of outcomes attached to it. But yeah, so it has stayed, and hopefully, I would have something real come out of this passion project. And I constantly write about it myself as well. But let's see.
Yeah, so we'll definitely share your writing uh, as part of our description. So I'll pick that from you at the end. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ananya. It's always such a pleasure connecting with you and learning about different things that you have absorbed and how much you've grown since the time we've known each other. So look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you. Thank you